I'm the one selling the records. They coming to see me.
They come in to see the temptation.
You see, the difference in some movies, in this movie, where the reason why you're inherently going to have a problem to some degree is because you have a lead singer and you have a heartthrob. It would probably be Michael and Robert. Keenan and I, we were going after a classic, so we had done close to 25 different drafts of the script.
Think you know the 5 heartbeats? Think again. Behind Robert Townsend's 1991 musical drama lies a storm of secrets that Hollywood tried to keep buried. What started as a soulful movie about dreams and downfall was actually a behind-the-scenes circus. From a director who couldn't dance to Michael Jordan reportedly snapping during a national anthem performance, Chaos was the real co-star of this film. The cast's confessions over the years proved that the real drama didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. It was only getting started. For decades, The 5 Heartbeats has been praised as a touching tale of ambition, heartbreak, and raw talent. But what if all that emotion on screen was a mirror of something much darker happening off it? Rumors have been swirling for years, and now some of the original cast are finally letting the truth slip. What they're saying isn't just unexpected, it's explosive. Fans are in disbelief because the real tension wasn't scripted. It was real, and it ran deep. One of the biggest emotional shadows hanging over the film was the tragic story of David Ruffin, the man whose incredible voice and wild life inspired parts of the movie. Insiders claim that after the film's release, Ruffin was preparing to check himself into rehab, finally ready to confront his demons. But before he could, everything fell apart. Those close to him say Ruffin had been wrestling with substance issues and deep personal struggles for years, and diving into a film that exposed the dark side of fame only made things worse.
Rob, you never directed anything, you never made a short film, you're talking about making a movie, and I was like, if we don't do this, we're gonna die. We'll figure it out, let's make a movie. And it was like, but you never did it before, and I said, it doesn't look hard. I've been on enough sets, I could do it.
Friends and co-stars later admitted that Ruffin's magnetic charm hid a dangerous volatility, and that his on-set moods sometimes blurred the line between performance and reality. Some believe that being forced to relive his own pain through art might have pushed him further toward the edge. The emotional weight of it all may have been too much. And tragically, instead of finding peace or help, Ruffin's life ended far too soon, suddenly and under circumstances that still raise questions today. Whispers inside the industry suggest that mounting studio pressure, old debts, and toxic relationships within the music world all added to his stress. Hollywood celebrated him when he was shining, but when he started to fall, the system looked the other way. Fans have been left wondering, could he have survived if someone had stepped in sooner? Or was the very industry that made him famous also quietly breaking him down from the inside? Even now, Ruffin's untimely death remains one of the darkest and most haunting stories linked to the 5 Heartbeats. What was meant to be a tribute to music and perseverance turned into a chilling reflection of the real dangers of fame, addiction, and betrayal. It's more than a movie now. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when the lights fade, the applause stops, and the pain of the spotlight becomes too heavy to bear. For real fans, one haunting thought still hangs in the air. The man whose life inspired the 5 Heartbeats never got to witness the legacy his story helped create. That alone gives the movie an eerie weight that time can't erase. But even before the cameras rolled, the road to bringing this story to life was anything but smooth.
Snorting and making sounds, and I could see he was struggling, and so me and Keenan were like, Rob, once we get the movie green lit, we're gonna put him in rehab and take care of it.
The film went through at least 7 different script drafts. Yes, 7. Each rewrite came with its own round of tension, ego clashes, and creative chaos. People close to the production say these rewrites weren't just about cleaning up lines or pacing. They were full-blown battles over truth versus comfort, over whether Hollywood was ready to face the real darkness of the music industry. Some drafts were tossed out entirely because they hit too close to home. They dug deep into raw subjects like systemic racism, industry exploitation, and the way record labels chewed up and discarded Black artists. And the studios panicked. Executives feared that exposing those ugly truths would make the movie too heavy for mainstream audiences. So, rewrite after rewrite, the story was pulled back and pushed forward again like a creative tug of war. Even the cast got swept into the drama.
The Five Heartbeats sort of got me into the Black Hollywood sort of circle, so to speak, because of the Robert Townsend of it, and the Michael Wright, and the Leon, and the Diane.
Key actors reportedly pushed for deeper, more emotional scenes, while Robert Townsend struggled to keep the balance between hard-hitting truth and crowd-pleasing entertainment. According to insiders, the writers' room turned into an all-out battlefield at times, with shouting matches, walkouts, and arguments that spilled out onto the set. It wasn't just a movie being made, it was a fight for artistic honesty. Some of those lost drafts tackled themes Hollywood wouldn't dare touch in the early 90s: infidelity, addiction, and the unspoken hierarchy of power inside record labels. Executives wanted those scenes watered down or erased completely, claiming that audiences weren't ready to see that side of the business. But Townsend wasn't having it. He reportedly stood his ground, demanding that the film show the real struggles that groups like the Dells lived through, not just the glossy, made-for-TV version. That defiance gave birth to a movie that didn't just entertain, it challenged. Every line of dialogue, every argument between characters, every emotional breakdown carried the weight of real-life pain and experience. The result was a film that felt electric, raw, and dangerously honest. For those who know the story behind the story, watching The Five Heartbeats feels like flipping through a secret Hollywood diary, one filled with scandals, sacrifices, and unfiltered truths. Townsend didn't sugarcoat the ugly parts of fame. He showed the racism, the manipulation, and the emotional toll that came with chasing success in a world that never played fair. And when those scenes hit the screen, they didn't just make audiences emotional, they left them shaken. Imagine being a superstar, adored on stage, worshipped by fans, yet forced to sneak into your own concert through a back door, hidden away from cameras, just because of the color of your skin. It sounds unthinkable, but that was the reality for countless Black performers in the era that The Five Heartbeats dared to portray.
Usually the lead singer is the heartthrob. But when you have one person who's the lead singer and the other one who's the heartthrob, there's gonna be some problems sometimes.
And if that wasn't enough, record labels were reportedly swapping album covers, literally replacing Black artists with smiling white families, all to make the music more acceptable for mainstream audiences. Unbelievable, right? For Robert Townsend, those shocking moments weren't exaggerated Hollywood dramatics. They were truths. Harsh, humiliating truths that reflected what real Black musicians endured while shaping America's soundtrack. But honesty like that always comes with backlash. When the film hit theaters, critics were instantly divided. Some slammed Townsend for being too direct, saying his portrayal of racism was too heavy-handed, too raw, too real. But others fired back, saying, "Finally!" Someone was showing what Hollywood had avoided for decades, the real pain behind the glamour. The controversy didn't stop there. Behind closed doors, producers were panicking. Insiders say they feared that exposing the uglier side of showbiz, the segregation, the exploitation, the open discrimination, might alienate white audiences and hurt ticket sales. But Townsend wasn't budging. He reportedly told executives that watering down those moments would be a betrayal to the very people this story was honoring. He made it clear the truth was non-negotiable. That decision turned The Five Heartbeats into more than just a movie. It became a statement, a bold, unfiltered spotlight on how deeply racism had shaped the entertainment world. It made some uncomfortable, inspired others, and still sparks heated debates today. Those gut punch scenes weren't just for shock value. They reminded audiences that fame has always come with a brutal cost, especially when the system profits from your voice but refuses to see your worth. But what viewers didn't see was that the off-camera chaos was just as intense as what made it to the screen. The cast spent over 7 grueling weeks training together, singing, dancing, rehearsing nonstop, and that pressure cooker turned the set into a ticking time bomb. Egos clashed, tempers flared, and the tension was real. Leon Robinson and Michael Wright later admitted that the competition between them wasn't just part of the script. Their rivalry for the spotlight, who'd be the lead singer, the heartthrob, the breakout star, mirrored the real-life drama that split so many famous groups apart. According to insiders, some arguments got so heated that crew members had to physically step in before things got out of hand. It wasn't just acting anymore. It was pride, insecurity, and ambition, all colliding under the bright lights. Townsend found himself not only directing a movie, but managing egos, soothing tempers, and keeping the production from exploding. Friends from the set recall days when Townsend looked completely drained, juggling roles as writer, director, producer, and peacemaker, all at once. He later admitted that some days were almost impossible. The irony? The same explosive energy that nearly tore the cast apart was exactly what gave the film its edge. Every scene pulsed with that raw tension, that real emotion. The 5 Heartbeats wasn't just acting, it was lived experience, bottled lightning, and behind every powerful performance was a storm that only made the movie's legacy stronger. Robert Townsend was in survival mode, juggling clashing egos, creative chaos, and a ticking production clock. He wasn't just directing a movie, he was babysitting grown stars with big dreams and even bigger tempers. Every day brought new battles over who got the best lines, who had the most screen time, and who shined the brightest under the lights. Even the smallest disagreements could spiral into shouting matches that left the cast and crew emotionally drained. Some scenes had to be shot over and over again, not because of camera issues, but because the tension between actors was so thick it could cut the air. Townsend's set started to feel less like a movie shoot and more like a dress rehearsal for the real music industry. Cutthroat, competitive, and full of jealousy. Everyone was chasing that same spotlight, and no one wanted to step aside. For fans, learning how much real drama fueled those performances makes the 5 Heartbeats hit even harder. The passion, the pain, the ego wars. None of it was just acting. It was lived. The emotional highs and gut-wrenching lows were pulled straight from what was happening behind the camera. And here's where it gets wild. The final cast we know and love almost never existed. Some shocking what-ifs could have completely changed movie history. At one point, Whitney Houston was reportedly this close to being cast in a key role. Imagine that. Her powerhouse voice and charisma would have transformed the movie's entire vibe, but her addition also risked overshadowing the ensemble and shifting the film's emotional balance. Sources say the studio was desperate for a big star to secure box office success, even if it meant twisting Townsend's vision. Executives pushed hard for changes, wanting the script to stick closer to the Dells' real-life story, instead of the fictionalized version Townsend had written. They believed audiences would respond better to something more authentic. But Townsend refused to back down. He wanted something bigger, more dramatic, something that felt true even if it wasn't literal truth. Those creative clashes sparked weeks of chaos, fiery debates, heated rewrites, and late-night meetings that stretched till dawn. Tempers flared, exhaustion set in, and for a moment, it looked like the entire production might fall apart. But Townsend kept fighting, determined to protect the soul of his film, even if it meant going toe-to-toe with the very people funding it. And that wasn't the only problem brewing. Rumors circulated that some cast members weren't happy with their roles, thinking they were miscast or underused. That bitterness spilled into rehearsals, causing side-eye moments, cold shoulders, and tense energy on set. Add in last-minute production changes, filming location switches, script tweaks, new dialogue, and it was pure chaos behind the curtain. Townsend was balancing it all: studio demands, cast frustrations, and his own creative perfectionism, and somehow still kept the movie afloat. What fans saw on screen looked smooth and soulful, but behind the scenes, it was a pressure cooker ready to blow. Every choice, every compromise, every late-night rewrite shows just how fragile the 5 Heartbeats really was, a masterpiece built on the edge of total collapse. Fans might see the smooth, emotional masterpiece that the 5 Heartbeats became, but behind that polish was chaos. We're talking about a wild mix of superstar egos, clashing visions, and studio interference that nearly blew the whole thing up. The fact that this movie even made it to theaters and became the cult classic it is today is nothing short of a miracle. And that miracle has one name behind it: Robert Townsend. His relentless drive to tell his story, his way, kept this project alive when everyone else wanted to tame it. The movie didn't sugarcoat a thing. It dove straight into the darkness of fame, addiction, betrayal, heartbreak, and even murder, painting a raw picture of what so many Black musicians actually faced during the 1960s. It wasn't just a movie, it was a wake-up call. Some viewers were shocked, others were moved, and everyone had something to say. One of the most talked about moments? The payola storyline, where record execs bribe DJs to spin certain songs. That plot hit a nerve fast. Some fans argued the movie glamorized the corruption, while others praised it for finally exposing how deep that rot went in the industry. Townsend didn't shy away from showing how money, power, and fame could twist everything, even the music itself. And then came Jimmy's death, the shocking twist that left audiences speechless. His fate mirrored the tragic downfall of countless real-life artists, lost too soon to the same system that once cheered them on. To some, it felt too brutal. To others, it was the truth finally shown in daylight. The heartbreak wasn't just cinematic, it was personal, and that's what made it unforgettable. Insiders say certain actors were deeply uncomfortable filming the darker scenes, especially the ones touching on addiction and betrayal, because they hit way too close to home. But Townsend stood firm, insisting that cutting those moments would have stripped the story of its soul. He argued that fame isn't just bright lights and applause, it's also pain, exploitation, and the constant battle for respect in a world built to take more than it gives. Even decades later, the debate hasn't cooled down. Critics still ask whether Townsend went too far or whether he finally told the truth others were too afraid to face. But for die-hard fans, that raw honesty is exactly what makes the Five Heartbeats legendary. It wasn't about glamour, it was about survival. The movie bared the real cost of stardom, the kind that shines bright but burns the artist alive. And here's the twist that still blows people's minds. Robert Townsend, the man behind the camera and the face of Duck Matthews, couldn't dance to save his career. That's right. The writer, director, producer, and star of a movie about a smooth R&B group had two left feet. But instead of backing down, he threw himself into the choreography like his life depended on it. Every spin, every step, pure willpower. Talk about risking it all for your art. The Five Heartbeats didn't just tell a story. It bled truth, sweat, and sacrifice. It's messy, it's powerful, and it's real. Townsend proved that passion could beat politics, that honesty could outlast hype, and that even chaos could create something timeless. So if you felt that heartbeat too, hit that like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more stories just like this. Because this one was pure soul, pure struggle, and pure fire. See you in the next one.